and my esteemed opponent, Senator Sanders, wants to start all over again. I got to tell you honestly, it's been a hard fight to get us to where we are today.
It is great to be against the war after you vote for the war.
The rhetoric on the Democratic side getting downright nasty in these final days before the Iowa caucuses. Incidentally, if you wonder why we never have the Democratic candidates on, here's the answer. We invite Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders every week, and every week they turn us down. The Sanders camp declines politely. Top officials in the Clinton camp don't even answer our calls and emails. And we're back now with the panel. And you've been tracking the Democratic race here, factoring in this new poll that shows Clinton with a 3-point lead over Sanders, obviously within the margin of error. Your sense of where things are headed tomorrow night?
Well, she's actually been slightly ahead in most recent polls, often within the margin of error, but enough ahead, a few points, that it looks as though unless something really strange happens with turnout or weather, that she will just squeak by. That appears to be the most likely outcome. Just squeaking by is certainly not where she was here only 2 months ago, certainly not where she wants to be. The Sanders campaign is already claiming momentum out of the Des Moines Register poll and presuming that he does very, very well here, just not well enough to beat her. They will continue to claim that momentum going into New Hampshire.
I'm going to pick up on that in a moment with Kathy, but first I want to ask you, Governor, the breaking news on the Democratic side has been the fact that the Obama administration announced that they can't release dozens of pages of Clinton private emails because they are too sensitive. Here is administration spokesman John Kirby.
Denying in full 7 email chains found in 22 documents representing 37 pages. The documents are being upgraded at the request of the intelligence community because they contain a category of top secret information.
Now, Governor, I know you're not following this intensely, but your reaction to the Clinton email scandal and your sense of how it's going to sit with Iowa voters?
Well, putting your own convenience above the security for the nation, I don't think it sits very well. And even among Democrats, a lot of people really question her integrity, her trustworthiness. And I think in the general election, it could be a big issue if she ends up being the Democratic nominee. So she doesn't have a lot of people that believe or trust her. They believe that she and her husband have always thought they're above the law and they didn't have to abide by the rules the rest of us have to. So I think it's a problem.
Kathy, you heard what Ann just said, which is, and this isn't a prediction, but just her read right now is that Clinton squeaks by. Based on your read on the ground, the latest poll, the ground games, the size of the crowds, what's your read on what happens in the Democratic race? And what is the possibility that this could be a repeat of 2008, although in this case, Clinton wouldn't get beat by a charismatic young Barack Obama, but by a 74-year-old socialist?
Well, you know, there are parallels to 2008 because Bernie Sanders has a similar coalition supporting him that Barack Obama did. First-time caucus goers, independents, people who, you know, have not necessarily been a huge part of the political democratic process before. And however, here's a big difference. In 2008, we saw first-timers coming out in record numbers. This poll has really about 40% first-timers, and that is about average. So we're not seeing a huge surge. Bernie Sanders, I think that generally speaking, needs a really big turnout. We're not seeing that sort of build to a record turnout. Now, that could change, you know, in a very short period of time.
Brett, Chris, if there's one number in that Iowa poll that would give you a sense of why Bernie Sanders is doing as well as he is and why he just might benefit from a last-minute surge, it is the one when people were asked if our system in America, economic system, is rigged and screws the little guy. In the Republican poll, 50% among Republicans said that it works, that the system is good. 67% of Democrats said that the system is rigged. Only some tiny number said that it is fair. That is the soul of Bernie Sanders' message, that the capitalist system is rigged and the billionaire class is a bunch of pirates and the little guy's getting screwed. And that sentiment, that strong, I think accounts in large measure for his success.
one interesting point about that, that also characterizes Donald Trump supporters more than anybody else. All Republican demographics say the system's working fine, except pretty much for Donald Trump supporters.
And
Britt, I just want to go, Britt, big picture. Step back, give us a 30,000-foot view of this. Clinton Sanders, this FBI investigation, and there were big revelations this week about these emails that are too secret to even be released at all. The possibility that a new mainstream, big-name Democrat could still get in this race. What is the possibility this race really gets upended?
Well, if something happens that makes us think that she is seriously likely to be indicted or is indicted, obviously that would change everything, and who knows what would happen on the Democratic side. I mean, there are lots of variables out there. I would say that Bernie Sanders, if he does respectably well here, even if he doesn't win, moves on to New Hampshire where he's got this huge lead. If he wins there, it'll be big headlines everywhere. That could shake up the race as it heads south. It's supposed to be a great firewall for Clinton in the South. I'm not sure that would be true. So, you know, there's a lot of variables on the Democratic side that will unfold as we go forward here.
And I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say that whole economic populism point that the deck is stacked and things are rigged against the little guy is a theme that Hillary Clinton has tried to strike and sort of essentially co-opt first from Elizabeth Warren and then from Bernie Sanders when it became clear.
It's hard for her to make that case, though, isn't it?
Apparently, it really hasn't taken. I mean, she gets. It's an applause line in the room, and she certainly it certainly resonates in the moment. But people consistently in this poll and others name Sanders as the person who speaks to them on that point.
Now, in Brooklyn, which is where the Clinton campaign headquarters is based, they say, look, even if Sanders wins Iowa, even if Sanders wins New Hampshire, we've got this firewall when they go down south. Do they really believe that, or do they think this could just upend everything were Sanders to run the first two states?
Well, they believe it, but they don't want to test it. I mean, who would? It's clearly, you know, statistically, she's got a lot of things going for her in South Carolina and in Nevada too, which vote next, and then the southern states. She's way ahead of him. That could change.
And we got about 30 seconds left. I know they play it down publicly, but behind the scenes, and your best sense of how worried they really are about this FBI investigation.
Worried, because it's a giant unknown. I mean, no one within the Clinton organization can absolutely know for sure where this is going. And that's the last thing you want, is a giant unknown hanging over you.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure talking with you. We'll see you next week in New Hampshire, except I assume, Governor Branstad, you have better things to do with your time.
I'm going to be right here in Iowa working for the people of this state.
Okay. You're always welcome, however. I just want you to know it's an open invitation.